Hello everyone, this is Mike Danaher. I'm with the New York State Attorney General's office. I'm an Assistant Attorney General at the Binghamton Regional Office. Welcome to all those of you who are attending. I understand we're out on Facebook today, or on YouTube today, and we're going to be streaming as well. Also, it's going to be posted on Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County's website so that you can follow along. And for those of you that are joining by tape, welcome. Just to give you an idea, we come and put on a consumer issue program once a month, second Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. We have a new venue today. We're actually at the Tompkins County Library. We're typically at Cornell Cooperative Extension at 16 Willow Avenue in Ithaca. And we invite all of you to come down and join us live on the second Thursday of the month. Lots of times when we have people here, they'll raise questions about things that I have not spoken about or that I have forgotten about or anything. So it'll jog my mind when somebody is there to help participate with us. Today's topic is a general overview topic of update of consumer frauds and scams. Just to let people know what's going on out there, what seems to be happening more frequently. Let's kind of start out by defining our terms of a fraud or a scam. The traditional definition of a fraud in the legal parlance is an intentional misrepresentation of a material fact relied upon by a victim to their detriment. I've modified it a little to say where it's an intentional misrepresentation or omission of a material fact that someone will rely on to their detriment. What I mean by that is that frauds can occur not only by active misrepresentations, but it can also occur by omitting something that for lack of a better term, reasonable person, another person would expect to be included, thereby leading to someone being deceived. Deceived to do something, to give up money in the traditional sense, or to act in a certain way that they thought was a result of a specific or set facts that either don't exist or were not thoroughly set forth, and leading to someone to be misled. It's happening in all types of areas. There are some items that we'll talk about in the near term that shows what's seems to be happening more frequently. But as a general matter, scams and frauds are not decreasing. They seem to be increasing. There can be a whole host of reasons why we have now become seemingly more vulnerable to those types of frauds and scams. Such things as, I've talked about this on a lot of occasions, and that is, we're a very convenience-based society now. We want everything to be done right away, right now. That's not giving us the opportunity to actually think about or investigate things. We're becoming more comfortable about giving out our information to people over the internet or over the telephone. We're more willing now to accept that risk that we could be the victims of a fraud or a scam because we want that convenience, that speed factor. We're buying things over the computer. We're communicating with people more frequently and on a quicker basis. We don't want to wait around. And by having done that and having had many successful transactions or interactions over a period of time, that has then said, well, you know, these faster, more convenient things are safe because I've done it so many times and everything's been good. That's where we have to be very careful. Sometimes we get caught up in that convenience factor, that it's been so successful over a period of time, and as a result, we've let our guard down. So when we take into account all those particular types of factors, it really has provided a very fertile ground for scam artists to utilize this to have us be caught up in their misrepresentations or omissions. Just to give you some idea, I looked up before coming here about some statistics. What's happening now? What are the most common frauds? What are the most common scams that are out there? And the Federal Trade Commission reported that, just to step back a little bit, the Federal Trade Commission gets reports. They have a portal called the Consumer Sentinel that they get notifications of different frauds and scams that are out there that have been reported. So they put out their own report that in 2018, reported losses from frauds and scams, and again, this will just be the tip of the iceberg because these are only the ones that have been reported, and it's clear that the majority of people don't report. That's why we always encourage you to tell someone. Report it so that people can then understand what's going on out there and may be less susceptible to being victimized. But it's been reported that people have lost $1.48 billion in 2018 due to frauds. That has been a reported increase of 38% over 2017. So more than a third of an increase since the year before. The top reported scams and frauds, and these are not black line demarcations because there's some kind of melding in of the different things, but the number one reported scam are imposter scams. Number two, debt collection. Number three, identity theft. Now, imposter scams could bleed over into identity theft. Debt collection could bleed over into identity theft. These debt collection and imposter scams that we'll talk about in a couple of minutes, they can be in the nature of stealing somebody's identity. So there's not just fine lines between these, but these are the kind of topic areas that have been reported. Interestingly, some people would be surprised by this. I was somewhat surprised by it, is that younger people are reported losing money more often to scams than older people. I think that goes back to what we initially talked about, which is people, younger generation, whose entire life there's been an internet. They would be somewhat surprised to find out that there hasn't always been an internet and that we've always had this. But they become very comfortable with its use. And so a lot of scams and frauds occur through these non-personal type contacts that you have over the internet. But the younger people have, in fact, reported losing money more often than older people. However, the amount that is lost is reported as being more significant for older people than it is for younger people. So it's more frequently with younger people, more expensive when you're dealing with older people. 43% of reportings of frauds have occurred by people in their 20s, whereas only 15% of the reports are for people in their 70s. However, the amount reported as being lost to a scam by people in their 20s is on average $400, whereas for those in their 70s, it's $751, so it's almost twice as much. The most prevalent way that funds are lost as a result of scams and frauds are with wire transfers, having money wired out. However, a extremely fast increasing way in which money has been transferred as a result of the fraud is now with gift cards, or they refer to them as reboot cards. In other words, cash cards that money can be added to. There has been a 95% increase year over year to money being transferred through the use of gift cards or these cash reloaded cards. So although wire transfers are still number one, I anticipate in the not too distant future that it's going to be taken over by these gift cards. Top states. The top states that have fraud reports for them, first of all, overall fraud is reported: Florida, Georgia, and Nevada. ID theft, a subset of frauds in themselves. The most reported states are flipped, the first two flipped, Georgia, then Florida, and then California. New York is in the top third or so, with 35 reports per 100,000 population. Some other states are in the 50s and 70s, but New York is kind of middling to the top third. The number one financial fraud that is occurring is the imposter scams. What's an imposter? That's someone who's contacting others claiming that they're a government official or somebody else. It could be your scams where Social Security is calling you saying that your Social Security number has been linked to a criminal activity, and that your Social Security card, your Social Security payments are going to be shut down because it's been associated with criminal activity. And so they will then ask you to make payments to cover the scams that have occurred, have you send money to them, and excuse me, and that's where it falls in the send cash, send wire transfer funds. Go out to a department store, a Walmart, a Target, drugstores, Walgreens, CVS's, and buy a cash card and send them the numbers to those cash cards so that the payment can be made. There are iTunes cards, same thing, loaded up iTunes cards that they've asked you to go fill them out. We've had calls in our office from people who were told to go out to Best Buy and load up Best Buy cards and send the numbers to them so that they can clear out these problems. The first thing I can tell you, and the first thing I can warn you is, if it is any legitimate type of claim that's being made against you, nobody, not the IRS, not Social Security, not anyone, is going to ask you to go pay some outstanding amount that's due by the use of these gift cards. They just do not do that. And when I say to someone, when you get a call like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, my Social Security check's not going to come this month, that's how I live, I have to take this taken care of right now. You have to take the time to step back and say, wait a second. Would the IRS be telling me to go out to Walmart and get cash cards and call them with the numbers on those cash cards so that I can pay a debt to them? Sit back and say, how am I going to be able to keep a record of me making that payment? If I did owe a debt, how am I going to keep a record if I just used a cash card that's not identified in my name, not associated to me? How am I going to know I'm going to get credit for that unless I have something that's in my name. So none of these outfits are going to use these types of payment methods to get you to record a satisfied debt. As soon as you hear that, it should be immediately sirens going off in your head saying, this is a scam, this is a scam. So no matter how official sounding the solicitation for the money is, it just doesn't make sense. Likewise, if you get something in the mail or you get something over the internet asking you to pay, go out and gift cards or something, they do not work that way. It's not legitimate. It is a scam. The IRS is not going to get paid that way. The Social Security is not going to get paid that way. Medicare is not going to get paid that way. None of those things are going to get paid that way, so you should go the other way. So anybody calling you, contacting you by email, contacting you through the internet, claiming that they are someone such as a governmental entity or some corporation or anything, it is not true. They will not ask you for money over those services, internet, email, text message, anything like that. So just ignore them. Do not engage them. Do not follow up with them. None of that. Another scam that is out there are cleaning up your credit scams. Emails, text messages, telephone contact, saying that there's a fast, easy way for you to fix your credit, your bad credit. Again, fixing your credit is not that easy. It's just not an easy, hey, click on this, pay a little money, and you're good to go. These debt settlement or credit repair agencies are, first of all, if legitimate, are under strict rules. They cannot take payment up front for their fees. If somebody is asking you for money and that they can, in a fast, easy way, solve your credit problems, it is probably not true. There are ways that you can go about doing this yourself. And if, in fact, you are not capable of being able to resolve this yourself, there are organizations out there that can assist you in those sorts of things. First of all, in order to check and see whether or not you have bad credit, or to check to see how bad it really is, you can take steps yourself. The first step that I would encourage you to do is to go out and get a free copy of your credit report. We can all get free copies of our credit report. In order for us to be proactive, thinking that I don't have to worry about it, I don't have bad credit. You can still go out and check and see what your credit is by getting a free copy of your credit report and reviewing it. And that's done simply by those of you who are using the computer, is go to annualcreditreport.com. Not any of the others, annualcreditreport.com. And you can get a free credit report from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You can get a free copy of your credit report from each of those 3. Download it, print off a copy of it, review it, make sure everything that is on there is yours, and make sure that it's accurate. If it is not, what you do is you contact the credit entity on your credit report. It might be a bank, it might be a credit card company, it might be some other credit offerer. If it shows a debt on there that you do not believe that you owe, you should contact them to challenge that debt, as well as contact the credit reporting agency upon which this debt shows, Experian, TransUnion, one of the credit reporting agencies, and challenge that charge. You can actually challenge that debt to say you don't own it, and it has to be verified. If, however, the creditor can verify the debt is being accurate, then it will go back on your credit report. First of it will come off, and then if it can be verified, it goes back on. If it cannot be verified, it stays off. And we, being good consumers, how we've always advocated that here at our consumer issue sessions, is I encourage you to annually go get copies of your credit report. Check it, make sure it's accurate, and if it is, you're good to go. If it's not, challenge it now, because if you wait and there's a problem, it is always more difficult to try to resolve that in a timely fashion. So get on it ahead of time, and you go a long way toward protecting yourself. I know that there are now credit card companies that are providing people with a copy of their credit score each month when they receive their bill. That should be just one of the items you use as ammunition in staying proactive, in looking at that. You get your credit card bill, it has your credit score on there, credit score is good, you're probably pretty good to go. If it's bad, or more importantly, it's fluctuated dramatically and you can't think of anything why it should have any dramatic fluctuation, you should look into it. And understand, the credit score, there are different entities that compile credit scores. The big one that a lot of people always hear about is the FICO score, F-I-C-O. That is simply an entity who takes a whole bunch of data of you and assigns a number to it. It goes, I don't know how low the low is, but the high is 850. So if you're at 850, congratulations. If the lower the number, the more impaired your credit is, and that you want to do what you can to keep that number up. But again, it's a function of a bunch of data that's mashed into a computer algorithm that mixes and matches and stirs it up and spits out a number. A lot of the data that goes into creating that number is your credit report. It's the information that's on your credit report. If you keep your credit report clean, if you look at the underlying data, the underlying credit that's on your credit report, and you keep that clean, the number that generates as a result of this algorithm will be fine. I think it's best as a good consumer to keep an eye on the underlying data. Not necessarily the number itself, because that number will take care of itself if the underlying information is accurate. Go to your credit report, look at it, make sure everything's good, and then everything else will fall into place. Or, if it's not so good, at least it's accurate, and you know that of what leads to it. But these entities out there that are offering to clean up your credit, it's an easy fix. I will tell you, it is not necessarily an easy fix. If there's an issue with your credit, and you know about it, and it's a problem because of debts that you've gotten into and things like that, we have to own it. We can't hide it. We have to own it. It's ours. We had some late payments. There may have been some extenuating circumstances, that medical bills or things that you just couldn't control, kind of out of your control. We still have to face it. They still exist. We still have to handle those things. And there are entities out there. It's not an easy fix. It's not like, okay, we'll just take care of it. There are entities out there that will help you do that. What I would suggest to you is don't fall for these emails or these television ads that you receive, that you see all the time. What you have to do is be proactive about it and go out, and you may need some help. There's a lot of help out there. I would suggest those of you in the Ithaca area contact Cornell Cooperative Extension. They have people available who they have programs and seminars that you can attend, which can give you a good base on how to handle things. They also might be a referral source to other entities. There are legitimate, not-for-profit credit counseling programs that are available. They're actually, through the Department of Justice, the U.S. trustee under the auspices of the Department of Justice, have lists of approved credit counseling agencies. Because, as I understand it, I don't do bankruptcy, but as I understand it, if someone is involved in a bankruptcy, they do have to engage with credit counseling services in order to actually get to the step where they can go through and do a bankruptcy. And there is a list of approved credit counseling agencies that have been recognized. And in our neck of the woods would be the Northern Federal District of New York. And there's approved credit counseling agencies listed, many of them. There are local credit counseling agencies that can assist people. That I would encourage you to investigate those options. Many of the credit counseling services are actually for no charge. And some of these other commercial credit counseling agencies, it can be pretty significant. So I would encourage you to pursue those avenues as well. Other types of things, top frauds and scams that are out there. One we alluded to before, we talk about it all the time, which is identity theft. Identity theft is merely stealing our personal identities, stealing our personal information, and going out and using that personal information for purposes of stealing money. One of the number one ways now that is being used as identity theft is that the people are going out and getting credit in our names and using the credit cards to rack up bills in our name. I actually pulled out a report. The top categories that were reported for New York, and this was through the Consumer Sentinel program with the FTC, is identity theft is number one in New York. Right behind it is imposter scams, then debt collection scams, next credit bureau, information furnishers, and credit report users. And then it goes on down the list for other things, including other things we talk about: sweepstakes scams, shop at home scams, lender scams, credit card scams. Those are the types of things that are out there. We're seeing some new things cropping up. It's been cropping up with the use of internet and community building that's been occurring over the use of the internet. And one is crowdfunding scams. We're all hearing about now how people are joining together in a crowd to raise funds and sourcing money through the cut out the middleman, and let's raise money all together for this particular cause or that particular cause, which is great, fantastic. The problem is there are frauds associated with it as well, and a big problem in the fraud realm is it's very difficult to differentiate between the two. What's a scam? What's not a scam? I would encourage people to be very wary of these crowdfunding things that crop up every time there's a particular tragedy. They're great. Let's say that somebody had their house burned down and some friends got together and said, we want to help this particular family. That is fantastic. The thing I would tell you, though, is if you're going to participate in one of those things, be very wary. Make sure you know who it is that's raising the money, whose name is behind this crowdfunding source, and make sure that you trust them to do with it what it's being raised for. I see it happening all the time. There's all kinds of crowdfunding sources that are raised, but I will tell you, there was one. I was involved in a case not too long ago that somebody decided to raise funds because of a tragic death of a young person. They were going to raise money for the family. This person who was raising the funds was not a close family member, was not a close friend. The person who was raising the funds was a colleague of one of the parents of the deceased young person. So they decided, and maybe they had every good intention starting out, they decided to open a crowdfunding program and raised thousands of dollars. Not tens of thousands, but thousands of dollars. That was to be used for the benefit of the family. The family came to my office and said, you know, we got a few $100s out of this campaign, but we don't know how much money was raised. We don't know what happened to the money. And when our office got involved in an investigation for this, we found out that people who donated to this were friends of the family, friends of the deceased. The person was of college age. Their high school friends, they kind of had lost touch since high school. They were good friends in high school, but they had saw that this person had deceased under tragic circumstances, and they really wanted to help out. They had fond memories of this person growing up, and they really just wanted to contribute. And I saw the list of names because it was a major crowdfunding source that was the account was set up with, and they had protocols in place so they could identify who had made the donations. And I went through the list, and I could see the names of the people because we subpoenaed the records, got the records, saw who made the donations, and I could tell. Some of them might have been renowned athletes in the area in high school, so you'd read about their names in the newspaper, and they had made donations because this person who died had been an athlete. And you say, oh yeah, I remember she was a big high school basketball player in our area at that time and was a high school classmate or near that person. So I could see that that's what it was. They didn't know that the money they donated never ended up going to the family. The person, maybe they had every good intention, but not all the money went over. We ended up suing that person and getting a judgment against that person for the amount that was not turned over, plus penalties. Something that warmed my heart is that we actually went to the crowdfunding establishment. They also kicked in money. We didn't ask them to, but they said, hey, we can't let this happen using our funding source. So they actually kicked in money that went to the family, and the family has used that and has created a scholarship in the name of their child, that they actually make donations every year, and that's continued to go on since then. And it was good that we were able to turn the money over to the scholarship fund in this person's name so that they could continue to keep the deceased person's name and memory out there. But that's just one small example. There are all types of other examples where crowdfunding, fundraising has been exploited by somebody to their own benefit, and the money never ends up to where it goes. So for those of us who are donating to that sort of thing, a couple of things. One is you should only make donations to causes that are your favorite causes and what you think are the most important. Second of all, I would encourage you, if you're going to be involved in these crowdfunding type of pursuits, make sure you keep it local. Make sure it's something that you know about in your local area, and you know who the players are, and you can be assuring yourselves that the money that is raised is going to be used for the purpose for which it was intended. If you're going on a more broad scale, you're going to donate to a cause that's near and dear to your heart on a global scale, for adoption, for pet adoption, pet neutering, cancer research, whatever it is, if you want to make a donation on a broader scale, I would encourage you to stick with the big players. Stick with the organizations that you know about, who have a history of fulfilling that particular mission, and make your donation to the reputable organizations. You will go a long way toward peace of mind that you are making your donations to those things, and that those things will be will be used for the purpose for which you are intended. Be a good consumer. Make sure you know where your money's going and what it will be used for. Another big area of scams that are cropping up, as you would expect to be a more modern thing, involving computers and technology, are the tech support scams. Getting the telephone call from Microsoft, telling you that your computer is infected, getting an email saying that your computer has got a virus and that you immediately need to contact or click on this button or contact Microsoft or respond to the telephone call that you receive. Let me tell you this. Microsoft is huge. Microsoft is one of the largest corporations in the world. They are not sitting there monitoring your computer for viruses and malware. They don't have time. They've got other things to do. If somebody calls you or contacts you and says, you've got this virus and this is Microsoft and you need to contact us immediately so that we can clean it up, it is not happening. They are not doing it. If you receive this type of contact, again, by phone, by internet, by text message, by any other way, it is not happening. Run the other way. Do not engage these people. Do not go to your computer when they ask you to go to your computer and start typing in things for them, or accepting their emails, or clicking on an email, clicking on a link that's embedded in that email. It is a scam. It is an attempt by them to get into your computer and put in nefarious programs so that they can then steal your data. They can try to get into bank accounts if you use your computer to access bank records or your bank account. There is no good that is going to happen as a result of replying to that sort of thing. You need to immediately disengage. Do not click on any links. Delete any emails. The other important thing is make sure all of your computer protections are up to date, that you have the latest antivirus protection and malware protection on your computers. Make sure that you run scans or that it automatically runs scans to make sure that you don't have this malware on your computers. It might be a good idea to periodically take your computer in to have it cleaned up to make sure that this stuff is not on there so that you can protect yourselves. Nobody's calling you from tech support. Nobody's contacting you from tech support out of the blue. So make sure that you go ahead and protect yourself from that sort of thing. The warning signs are kind of similar. Whether you receive a telephone call, whether you receive something over the internet or by text message on your phone. And we need to use common sense. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's not a deal out there that you get something for nothing. Another important factor with scam artists is their rush to judgment. You immediately have to act. You immediately have to call this number. You immediately have to go out and get these cash cards to pay a particular bill. You immediately need to respond to this. That is a ploy that scam artists use to get you to not think about it. The best thing you can do is give yourself time to think about it. Call someone. Don't act immediately. Call the Attorney General's office. We can walk you through things. We have to act like good consumers. Make sure we know who we're dealing with before we click on those links. Make sure that we know who it is that we're buying something from before we send any money. Be a good consumer. Investigate these sorts of things. You will go a long way toward protecting yourself if you know who you're dealing with, you only deal with reputable entities, and that you do whatever you can to make sure that you protect yourself. Those of you that are buying and selling things, be careful to know who you're dealing with. I tell people that if you're going to go on these places, these auction sites, where you're offering something for people to buy from you or they're offering for you to buy, make sure you know who you're dealing with. I would encourage people to only deal locally. That means if you want to buy something, know where you can go to pick it up. If you know if somebody's buying something from you, have them come get it. Some big scams are out there where they're saying, oh yeah, just send it to us. Or, yeah, just send us the money and we'll send it to you. Be very careful about that. Be very wary about that. Make sure that you know who you're dealing with, or you could be the victim of fraud or scam. If you do buy things, I encourage you not to send cash, not to go out and get cash cards. If you can, use a credit card. Have a credit card that you only use for online transactions, not just have a separate credit card for that. Low credit limit on the credit card, and use it that way rather than sending out cash, because once you send out the cash, it's very difficult to get it back. There are a whole host of scams and frauds out there. The only thing I can tell you is be a good consumer. Investigate. Make sure that you know who you're dealing with. Make sure that you know what you're getting or you know what you're giving up. If you do that, you will go a long way toward protecting yourself. If anyone ever has a problem with a consumer-related transaction, you were buying something, and you didn't get it, or there's a problem, feel free to contact our office, the New York State Attorney General's office. You can contact us over the internet at ag.ny.gov, or you can contact us Just look us up. Go on the internet, look up our telephone number. You can contact us. We have people available who can speak with you, walk you through the process, give you some suggestions. If you have a complaint against a particular business, we take complaints. We attempt to mediate those complaints. We send the complaint to the business saying we've heard from a consumer, they have a problem. Here's a copy of the complaint they've sent us. How do you respond? And we encourage the business to respond. And we're pretty successful in trying to get those resolved. Or at least what it does is it informs us what's going on out there so that we might be able to warn others about a potential scam. We might be able to stop that scam sooner rather than later. So we always encourage people to report. Sometimes it's difficult to report. Sometimes it's difficult and embarrassing to report when you say, oh man, I was stupid. I had this fraud. I should have never responded to this. Let people know. Don't hide it, because they may be the next victim. You may be protecting the next victim by reporting it. So we encourage you to do that. And last but not least, for those of you out watching us on YouTube now, or later on if you've picked it up off Cornell Cooperative Extension's website, come join us. Second Thursday of the month. We're typically at Cornell Cooperative Extension at 615 Willow Avenue. Sometimes we have to have an alternative, but you'll be informed of that. But the second Thursday of the month at 11 a.m., where we talk about various consumer-related topics. You may have your questions. Actually, you may have a question that's not even related to the topic we're talking about. If that's the case, come on down. Still join us, because after our presentation is over with, I'm usually around afterwards to handle maybe unrelated consumer-related questions. So if you have any questions, please join us. Your participation in our live sessions is always very helpful, and hopefully we can answer your questions on the related topic during the taping, and if not, you can stay afterwards and feel free to ask questions afterwards. I hope this was informative. If you have any questions related to this or any other consumer-related topic, please feel free to contact our office, New York State Attorney General's office. We would be glad to assist you. So with that, I hope you have a good day, and hopefully we will see you at one of our upcoming sessions. Thank you.